What if capturing a single railway station could tip the balance of an entire conflict? On October 21st, a moment long anticipated has finally arrived. In the embattled city of Pokrovsk, Russian forces have broken through, achieving what analysts are calling a decisive and potentially war-altering advance. But the shockwaves are not limited to the battlefield. In the wake of a marathon conversation between the Russian and American presidents, subtle yet powerful diplomatic maneuvers are already sending ripples through both Kyiv and Washington. This call, lasting over 2 hours, has set in motion consequences that observers say could reshape the diplomatic landscape for months ahead. Tonight, we investigate how the capture of just one railway station could spark a chain reaction, disrupting enemy supply lines, morale, and even the calculations of world leaders. We will also explore 3 key diplomatic trump cards reportedly played by the Russian side, and how these moves may have shifted the global balance of power. Ignore these events, and you risk missing how a single tactical shift, combined with well-timed diplomacy, can alter the fate of entire nations. Missing such a pivotal moment could leave anyone, from policymakers to ordinary citizens, dangerously unprepared for what comes next. Let us start where it all unfolds. At the very center of operations in Pokrovsk, where methodical advances are rewriting the rules of modern warfare. Now, let us set the global stage and see why Pokrovsk's breakthrough is about far more than just military maps. It is about the future direction of the entire conflict. Why does the control of just one urban node decide whether entire armies survive or collapse? The answer lies not in firepower alone, but in the hidden arteries of modern war: logistics. Pokrovsk's railway station is far more than brick and mortar. It is the beating heart of the region's supply network, pulsing with the lifeblood of fuel, munitions, and reinforcements. Shifting control of this single hub immediately severs vital supply lines to Ukrainian troops across a wide sector, threatening to starve frontline units of everything they need to hold out. Russian forces have not only taken the station itself, but have rapidly secured surrounding administrative blocks and apartment buildings. This creates a launchpad right in the city's core, allowing further urban operations and deeper pushes into entrenched enemy territory. Along Schmidt Street and in the shadow of the locomotive depot, troops have advanced methodically, forming a solid defensive barrier, a bulwark that shields flanks from counterattacks while doubling as a springboard for new assaults into the city's labyrinth. In dense block-by-block combat, advances are measured not in tens of kilometers, but in meters and hours. Yet just in the past day, nearly 2 kilometers have been gained, a remarkable feat considering the urban density and fierce resistance. Industrial zones once bristling with defenders are being systematically cleared. Every warehouse, workshop, and alley wrestled from opposition control strengthens the tactical grip on the city. The capture of Pokrovsk's western transport interchange is especially telling. Holding this junction unlocks possibilities to pivot towards Sergeyevka, just a fraction of a kilometer away, a maneuver that threatens to envelop Ukrainian flanks and force local encirclements. Even seemingly minor objectives, like a kindergarten long since converted into a garrison, are decisive. Each such gain removes a safe haven for defenders, tightening the noose on their positions and signaling a relentless operational tempo. The risk could not be higher. If these logistical hubs fall, entire formations risk isolation and destruction. The tempo of advance is not about spectacle, but about strangling enemy sustainment and morale, one node at a time. This is why battles for urban crossroads and supply arteries are truly existential, for both attackers and defenders alike. Yet these hard-won urban gains are only the first tremors. What happens in Pokrovsk now sends shockwaves across the entire front line, reshaping the wider conflict. What happens when enemy logistics unravel, and the world's most powerful leaders quietly shift the rules behind closed doors? Right now, urban combat in Pokrovsk is anything but cinematic. Every block, every building, is contested in a grinding battle of attrition. The Russian breakthrough here is not just a headline, it's the start of a chain reaction reshaping the front lines and the war's tempo. As Russian units methodically advance, the pressure ripples outward. On the neighboring fronts of Dobropolye and Niklanorovka, gains are being made, even as Russian forces sometimes withdraw tactically to save their strength, ready to surge forward again. Each move is deliberate, designed to wear down exhausted Ukrainian defenders and force commanders into tough, often desperate decisions. Artillery and drone strikes now hunt anything that moves on Ukrainian supply lines. Trucks, armored vehicles, even lone civilian cars. The message is clear. Nothing is safe, nowhere is hidden. Logistics are suffocating, and every supply run becomes a deadly gamble. Geography itself has become a weapon. The Seversky Donets River, once a shield, is now a trap. With bridges destroyed and only narrow exposed routes left, Ukrainian positions risk encirclement. Their supply options shrink daily, and commanders must weigh holding ground against the nightmare of isolation. This pattern repeats elsewhere. In Kharkiv and Kupiansk, Russian forces are seizing key buildings and high ground. Ukrainian resupply is paralyzed, defenders forced into rushed, improvised fortifications. The front lines bend under relentless pressure. Each kilometer gained denies the enemy time, space, and hope. Further south, in Zaporozhye, the recent Russian capture of Poltavka threatens the critical stronghold of Gulyapol. Should this fortified town fall, it would spell disaster for Ukrainian lines across the region, opening the door for rapid Russian exploitation. The cost of these advances is severe. South of Verbovoye, an entire Ukrainian brigade has been wiped out. The loss of so many trained soldiers not only raises urgent questions about Ukrainian command and resilience, but also exposes the limits of morale and material support. But the ground war is only one front. Behind the scenes, diplomatic tremors are shaking global alliances. A 2-hour phone conversation between President Putin and former President Trump has produced immediate fallout: the suspension of United States missile deliveries to Ukraine. 3 strategic levers were pulled in this call. First, diplomatic respect. Putin's status acknowledged, shifting calculations in Western capitals. Second, pragmatic warnings about the finite United States arsenal, hinting at limits to what America can give. And third, a willingness to meet face-to-face, sowing uncertainty among allies and slowing the flow of arms. Together, these military and diplomatic maneuvers create a dangerous new reality. If Ukraine cannot adapt quickly, on the battlefield and in the halls of power, its defenses risk rapid collapse, or worse, being strategically outmaneuvered before anyone can react. As both armies and diplomats scramble to adjust, the next phase will reveal who can seize the initiative and who is left reeling from events beyond their control. If one stronghold collapses, what chain reaction could follow? Will defeat in one sector trigger a cascade, or open doors for a breakthrough elsewhere? Right now, Pokrovsk and its surrounding towns stand at a dangerous tipping point. The fall of this critical node is turning Ukrainian defensive lines into a vortex, rapidly draining their reserves and risking a broader collapse. Russian forces are not charging forward blindly. Instead, they are using methodical, step-by-step tactics that stretch Ukrainian manpower and logistics to the breaking point. Near Konstantinovka, Russian advances are coming from 2 directions. But instead of launching costly frontal assaults, they focus on a suffocation strategy, cutting vital supply routes and isolating defenders. This approach is slow but relentless, increasing pressure without unnecessary losses. Further north, the situation around Sloviansk is even more precarious. A looming pocket threatens to trap a major Ukrainian grouping, as Russian artillery severs key logistic lines. Each convoy that tries to resupply risks being destroyed, and the distance from the crossings to the front line is short enough that almost nothing escapes detection. Retired Colonel Pinchuk, a seasoned observer, warns that Pokrovsk is entering its final, bloodiest phase. City combat is a grinding, attritional fight, slow, house to house, and devastating for both sides. Progress is measured in buildings, not kilometers, making every gain hard-won and costly. While both sides may have similar numbers of soldiers on paper, breaking the deadlock depends on reserves, discipline, and the ability to keep up constant pressure. Without fresh troops and supplies, Even well-dug-in defenders can quickly unravel. The intensity of the fighting is highlighted by credible reports of foreign mercenaries fighting alongside Ukrainian units, a sign of both international involvement and growing desperation. Every corner of the city sees the clash of not just national, but global interests. As Russian advances remain careful and patient, the front lines risk collapsing like falling dominoes. One breach could rapidly trigger the downfall of neighboring sectors. This chain of events would not only redraw the battlefield, but also shake the wider balance of power. Understanding these slow-burning yet pivotal developments gives us a unique lens to anticipate far-reaching shifts, military, political, and economic. The consequences will ripple far beyond these ruined cities. But what can ordinary viewers actually do with this knowledge? Let's break down the practical lessons and strategies that can help you stay ahead as the war and its diplomacy take unexpected turns. Could the real secret to victory be measured steps, not grand gestures? Modern warfare is no longer just a contest of sheer firepower. Instead, it is defined by logistics, adaptability, and relentless psychological pressure. Securing a rail station, a crossroads, or even an administrative block can tilt the entire trajectory of a campaign, often more effectively than a dramatic charge across open ground. In battles like those unfolding in Pokrovsk, the capture of a single supply node does not just cut off enemy resources. It triggers a chain reaction, breaking down defenses, straining morale, and forcing difficult decisions at the highest levels. These seemingly modest advances accumulate, shifting the front line and rewriting the rules of engagement day by day. But it is not only soldiers and artillery that decide the outcome. Diplomacy, quiet, indirect, and sometimes intensely personal, carries as much weight as any tank battalion. A single phone call between presidents can reshape alliances, shift strategies, and send ripples of uncertainty through capitals far from the battlefield. Patience becomes a weapon. The side that can accumulate resources and apply steady, methodical pressure often finds the breakthrough they need. Overextending or being goaded into reckless moves usually leads to collapse rather than glory. And while the urge to look for quick, dramatic victories is strong, true and lasting change comes from sustained effort and careful positioning. For viewers, recognizing these slow-moving dynamics is crucial. Monitoring small tactical wins, subtle diplomatic shifts, and the slow grind of logistics helps you avoid being blindsided, whether by market shocks, new security threats, or sudden changes in international mood. Knowing how to read these signs is a vital skill in a world where headlines can change overnight. Failing to spot the powerful gears of war and diplomacy turning beneath the surface could mean missed opportunities, bad investments, or greater exposure to risk. Let's close with a clear-eyed look at the current balance of the conflict and what you should be watching for as the next phase unfolds. Now, let's break down the strategic landscape. Who holds the initiative, where the flashpoints are emerging, and what this means for the future of the conflict. History is not written in a single day. Are you prepared for the next domino to fall? As we look back on the breakthrough in Pokrovsk and the deliberate moves on the diplomatic chessboard, one truth stands out. Wars are seldom won by force alone. Tactical patience, slow encirclements, and carefully weighed retreats are just as decisive as headline-grabbing assaults. Every kilometer gained, every railway seized, every call between presidents, these set off ripples that change alliances, strategies, and the very fate of those involved. Today, the combination of iron discipline on the battlefield and pressure at the negotiating table has shifted the war's tempo. In this new phase, it is not the boldest, but the most adaptable who survive the coming storm. Those who understand the deeper patterns behind each news flash are the ones who can anticipate the next move, whether that means safeguarding investments, preparing for shifts in security, or simply staying ahead of the stories that shape our world. If you wait to notice the outcome, you risk being left behind. The true stakes are not only in distant capitals or abstract statistics, they reach directly into our lives, our safety, and even our reputations as citizens of a changing world. This conflict shows us that patience, careful calculation, and psychological pressure can be more powerful than any single offensive. The front lines may shift slowly, but their impact is sudden and far-reaching. To navigate this uncertainty, we must stay watchful, informed, and ready for whatever comes next.